See what's coming. I don't see the picture. There it is. We still have an empty podium. And for those of you who have just joined us, you're watching C-SPAN, the cable satellite public affairs networks. C-SPAN 1, C-SPAN 2 cover the U.S. House of Representatives whenever it's in session, gavel to gavel, and the United States Senate on the other network, gavel to gavel. Senate's expected back, I believe, on the 22nd, which is Tuesday. Not sure. I don't have the information in front of me about the House. Don't know what's on the agenda. Obviously, members of Congress watching the situation over the Gulf like everyone else over in the Gulf. Our phones will be open throughout a lot of the day. They have been open almost continuously since the 16th of January.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to United States Central Command's daily news briefing. Today we will hear from Major General Burton R. Moore, Director of Operations for United States Central Command. General Moore will give us an update on events in Operation Desert Storm. Following his presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, General Moore.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are now well into the 5th day of Operation Desert Storm. Air operations by U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, U.S. Marine Corps, as well as Allied Air Forces, continue to concentrate on targets in Iraq and Kuwait. We have now flown more than 8,100 sorties in support of our campaign objectives. We have focused on key elements of Iraq's warfighting capability. In the past 24 hours, we downed 2 more Iraqi aircraft, bringing the total to 17. We lost 1 U.S. aircraft to hostile fire in the past 24 hours, a U.S. Navy F-14 Tomcat. Since Desert Storm began, we have lost 9 U.S. and 5 Allied aircraft to hostile ground fire. An Army Apache AH-64 and a U.K. Tornado were also lost in the last 24 hours due to non-combat related accidents. Our ground forces of the U.S. Army, Marine Corps, and allies continued to defend in Saudi Arabia. While there has still been no direct hostile contact between our forces and those of Iraq, we have received some sporadic Iraqi artillery fire. U.S. and naval forces continue to conduct operations in the Arabian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the Red Sea. Maritime intercept operations continue with almost 7,000 intercepts to date. As you are all well aware, last night Patriot batteries in Riyadh and Dhahran engaged Iraqi SCUD missiles aimed at Saudi Arabia. Our reports indicate that the batteries in Dhahran successfully engaged 2 SCUD missiles in that area, while a 3rd SCUD impacted in waters off the coast of Saudi Arabia. In Riyadh, our reports indicated that 6 SCUD missiles were fired. Our Patriot batteries successfully engaged all 6. During the engagements at Riyadh, there was some collateral damage to a building near Riyadh Air Base. However, we have no reports beyond that, although preliminary reports suggest that it was debris from an intercepted SCUD or possibly a Patriot missile that malfunctioned, and we'll get more to you on that as it becomes available. We have no reports of casualties. We are working with Saudi officials, and they will provide you additional information as it becomes available. In summary, we are continuing to execute our campaign plan in accordance with our overall campaign objectives. That completes my remarks, and I'll try to take your questions.
Is the total now 12 SCUDs fired last night then? It was 10 with 4 in Riyadh.
The reports that we have is that there were a total of 10 SCUDs fired last night, total, 6 in Riyadh, 2 in Dhahran, 1 off the coast, and then 1 several days ago. Yeah.
General, you may have seen, as some of us, pictures of American pilots captured by the Iraqis, held as prisoners of war. I wonder whether you would care to comment as an Air Force general on that event, and secondly, to give us some sense of how you feel that treatment is affecting your operations and the emotions of your own pilots.
I did not see the pictures. I heard some of the tapes. I would comment not only as an Air Force Major General, but as an American citizen, and that is that to say that while we are happy that our airmen survived the intercepts and the hostile fire, we hold Iraq accountable to treat them in accordance with the Geneva Convention. Yes.
Sir, what is your best why Iraq is targeting Riyadh? Do you think it's to actually hit targets or to frighten the population or to, what is your best guess?
Well, I think to know what Iraq is trying to do, of course, you would obviously have to try to get into their mind. I would only say that whatever the reason, I think the results of their efforts have been very feeble. Yes.
What is your assessment of what a lot of people are calling Saddam's rope-a-dope strategy? That he's giving us just a taste of what he has, and he's got a lot more to come with chemical warfare in store, too.
That is always a possibility. We plan to continue to execute our campaign in accordance with our objectives on our time schedule. We plan for the worst. We hope for the best. We have good people, good equipment, and I think the results to date would suggest that we are well on our way to our objectives.
Do you have, can you make an assessment of what he has in his own arsenal, what he has left and what he can deliver?
Well, I can't give you an exact answer as to what he has.
Even big.
No, I would rather not speculate. Yes.
Only a few days ago, the military was making much of the fact that there was what was being described as a trend in Iraq's missile firings. 8, I believe, on Friday, 3 on Saturday. Now we find ourselves back up to 10. Does that change your assessment of the effectiveness of your attempts to track down the SCUD launchers?
Well, as I said, we continue to aggressively pursue his fixed and mobile SCUD capability. It is too early to say that we have those objectives obtained, but we continue to try to take them out as fast. We are pursuing that objective as aggressively as is reasonably possible. And again, I would say that the results of his efforts to launch SCUDs, both here and in Israel, have been very ineffective. Yes?
The British officer has said that the effect of seeing POWs on television is likely to at least irritate airmen, British airmen. Would you say that's the same for American pilots when they see their colleagues exhibited like this?
We expect that our colleagues, both U.S. and allied, will be treated humanely and in accordance with the U.S. Geneva Convention. Yes.
General, how many of the 8,100 sorties are actual combat sorties as opposed to logistical flights behind the lines?
They all are combat sorties, although some fall in the category of combat support.
Well, how many are actually those directed against Iraqi military positions?
I would rather not give you that number.
General, can you tell us from your intelligence assessments of the SCUD launchings last night, how many launchers were involved in these 10 launchings? Where were they? Did you mount any attacks against them? And do you know if you've taken any of them out?
For operational security reasons, I would not want to tell you, nor would I tell you exactly how many launchers or where they are. I would tell you that in accordance with our campaign plan, we will continue and have aggressively pursued launchers when we find them and when we fix them and when we can attack them, and we'll continue to do that.
If you've taken any of them out?
I think we have taken some of them out. We are nowhere near completing our campaign objectives. Do not draw anything else from that statement.
General, the bombing of the Iraqi positions that are dug in the Kuwait, at the Kuwaiti border, is that around the, when we say around the clock, do we mean continuously, or do you mean 4 hours on, a few hours off? How does it work? Can you just give us an idea of what?
We are not on a 4-hour on, 4-hour off schedule. We are conducting around-the-clock operations, as you said.
Falling on the troops that are dug in?
We are always pursuing Iraqi troops both in Iraq and Kuwait, yes. Yes.
A couple of days ago, 2 Patriots have been fired unintentionally, as we were told. And now there's a possibility that the damage happened here is because of one of the Patriots. How safe is this operation?
I think I would say that the investigation on those two Patriots is ongoing, and I would rather couch it in the context of, again, every SCUD missile that has been launched at Riyadh or Dhahran has been successfully engaged by a Patriot missile. Yes.
There's been some comment previously from officers suggesting that all of the fixed launchers had been taken out, and I believe General Schwarzkopf said 16 of an estimated 20 mobile launchers. You said you continue to aggressively pursue fixed and mobile launchers. Does that mean there are still fixed launchers in operation?
We have not achieved 100% of our objectives against the fixed sites, the mobile sites, and a SCUD missile capability, yes.
General, a few days ago, General Schwarzkopf showed some very impressive films to us demonstrating the pinpoint accuracy of bombing missions over Baghdad. Have we used that skill in pinpoint bombing to go after any targets, any terrorist targets in Baghdad, the headquarters of Abu Abbas or Abu Nidal?
We have used our technology, our pinpoint accuracy as you describe it, and that is correct, and the highly qualified crews to attack selected targets that we feel are part of Iraq's warfighting capability, and we will continue to do that. Yes.
Consider, follow-up, would you consider those to be part of Iraq's war capability, those terrorist targets?
I think it would be inappropriate for me to identify specific targets at this time. Yes.
Would you please give us some detailed information about how much you have destroyed Saddam Hussein's capability to talk to his ground troops in Kuwait, to communicate with them? I don't want you to give away operational secrets, but give us some assessment of how badly that communication line with the ground troops has been affected so far.
We have indications that we are effectively degrading a good portion of his ability to communicate with his troops, although we have not eliminated that capability completely, and we will continue to pursue that. Just his command and control structure to his integrated air defense.
General, there have been allegations by the Iraqis and also by the Iranians that you are attacking residential areas, civilian targets. How do you react to those allegations?
That's not correct. I think you have seen the films. Our technology and our ability has allowed us to really pinpoint the targets that we need to hit, and it is not, nor will it be, our policy to attack innocent civilians. Our argument is not with the people of Iraq, it is with Saddam Hussein and his military. Yes.
What kind of intelligence coordination do you have with the allied forces? Because you speak about 3 SCUDs on the eastern province and 6 on Riyadh, and the French army speak of 6 on the eastern province and 4 on Riyadh. So is there really intelligence coordination between you?
Yes, there is, and I would remind you of what you are all familiar with, and that is the fog of war. And those of you who have seen this event from last night know that if you were standing in a certain spot, you reacted and saw a certain thing happen, and somebody else down the street might have described it quite differently. The coordination is ongoing. I will say, you know, we are still early in nailing down exactly what happened, but as I said, our reports are as I stated them to you. Yes.
General, I have 2 questions, one quick one and one a little more difficult. Are B-52s being used on Baghdad or targets anywhere near Baghdad?
For operational reasons, I would not like to tell you what is being used exactly where. However, our B-52s are being used to meet our campaign objectives, and they have been participating from D-Day.
A couple of days ago, the weather was supposed to be a factor in battle damage assessment. Has the weather improved, and do we have a better sense now as to what has been accomplished in the raids?
While we have seen some improvements off and on in the weather patterns continue as they have for the past few days, and it has continued to impact our ability to get battle damage assessment, although there are other ways of knowing how successful we are, and again, we use that in our planning. Yes, please.
Sir, yesterday, I believe 14 out of a certain number of mines were identified as being of Iraqi origin. Have any mines been identified as being of other origin positively?
There are no mines that I'm aware of being other than an Iraqi origin. That's correct. Yes.
There have been a number of varied estimates on the number of SCUD launchers that the Iraqis possess. Did, in fact, the Russians sell them all their SCUD launchers? And if so, why can't we find out from the Russians precisely how many systems they provided for the Iraqis?
In response to your first question, I don't know if the Russians sold them all of their SCUD launchers, and that makes it impossible for me to address the second question. Yes.
To go back to the weather for just a second, I mean, it makes it difficult for damage assessment. Could you also tell me what or what not bad weather, what you can or cannot do because of the cloud cover?
Well, what we can and cannot do is not the issue. We have systems that are able to make compensations. It is a factor in our planning and will continue to be a factor in our planning. Would we like the weather to be better? Yes.
Could you tell us how many of the coalition aircraft losses occurred over Iraq, how many over Kuwait, and whether the anti-aircraft weapons that the Iraqis have appear to be more effective in one place than the other?
For reasons of both operational security and the safety of the crews, which may be evading in the areas in which they were shot down, I would request that I not answer that question.
Can you confirm reports that some Iraqi planes have been taking refuge in Iran?
I'm sorry, would you say that?
Confirm reports that some Iraqi planes have been taking refuge through the north into Iran.
I am not aware of any such reports. Yes.
I think that the message yesterday was to encourage you to start the ground attack. Do you think that you will go to this battle early than you had decided?
We will execute our campaign plan on our schedule when we are ready and when it's appropriate, and I would not predict or speculate beyond that. Yes, there was a voice here in the middle. Yeah.
It's been suggested by those leaving Baghdad that far from dividing the people of Iraq against their leader, the pinpoint accuracy bombing has united them. They feel that they are able to unite, and the morale is quite high. Have you anything on that?
I have no comment on that. We will continue to try to use our technology to the best of our ability to minimize civilian casualties. Yes.
So is there any indication that Jordan or any other Arab country is likely to join these hostilities on the side of Iraq?
I have nothing to suggest that.
General, you have stated the policy repeatedly on the about bombing only military targets and avoiding civilian areas. We understand that fully, but do you have any way of assessing whether there are civilian casualties, collateral damage of that kind? And if so, do you have any kind of a reading on it that you can give us as to how much of this there might have been, apart from what the Iraqis say about it?
I do not, and I haven't even seen any news reports or heard of any news reports where the Iraqis may be suggesting that. I really can't just, I know nothing about that. Yes.
General, you say you heard the statements from the downed flyers, the POWs. Is it your estimation that these statements were made under coercion? And if so, based on your experience at survival school, can you describe what kind of atmosphere they were made in?
Well, that would really be speculative, and I would not want to do that, nor would I want to say any more about those individuals that are reportedly held hostage because of their safety, if nothing else. Yes.
This moment from Kuwait television. What would be your advice for the people of Kuwait for the near future?
The people of Kuwait living in exile or in Kuwait?
In Kuwait.
Keep the faith.
General, how many Patriot missiles were fired last night?
I would, for operational reasons, I will not answer that question. Thank you. Yes.
General, can you elaborate a little on the general